What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Why We Design, where I'm going to discuss some training and coaching related topics. Today's topic is going to be the 2021 Open. Recently, we just heard that CrossFit is going to move that back to the springtime, so it's going to be in February. Traditionally, it was in February, towards the end, usually the last week of the Open, or the first week of the Open was the last week of February, and it led into March. So we're going to go ahead and assume that, and we're going to discuss basically if you started training and prepping or began with a coach starting September 1st, which is coming up, or if you're watching this and it's already September 1st, then numbers will still make sense and you can kind of adjust from there. But we're going to talk about lead up into the Open, why it's important to plan, why you need to be looking this far out, and hopefully some of the numbers can help you out there. So starting September 1st, we're leading into the first week of the Open. You have roughly 5 months. So starting September 1st, and again, it's just depending on what week it falls on. But assuming it's going to fall on the last week of February, you're going to have about 5 months. That means you have about 25-ish weeks, and then 176 days. So that's what we have left, and that's total time. Okay, so let's assume now you're in training. That doesn't mean you're training for 176 days straight. So you do not have 176 days. Let's assume that. We have 3 deloads. So these are, if you don't know, just rest-ish weeks, lower volume weeks, times taken off from hard training. They're going to be necessary. 3 deloads over 5 months is not that big. Some people might have 4. Some people might have 2. Some people might break them up into smaller, 3 or 4 days. But let's just assume, for the sake, 3. Let's assume we have 1 taper. So we have 1 taper and 3 deloads, so let's just assume 4 weeks, and this is assuming you're not going to get sick, you're not going to have some crazy pain, your hands aren't going to be torn where you can't do some session, you don't have like some glaring injury or you have to baby something, so you don't have like some crazy life thing happening. So let's assume that, which would be in a perfect ideal situation. So then we really have only about 147 days in roughly 4 months, so 147-ish training days, and again, we're not even talking rest days, so you have 147 days until the Open. All right, so now that we've covered that you have about 147 training sessions or 147 days, let's assume you have a couple glaring weaknesses that you personally think you need to work on. So let's say you think you need to work on muscle up, so you need to improve the skill. You also need to improve your volume, how many you can do, and then improve on your muscle up ability in workouts. So you need to improve your snatch, so that might be strength, that might be, again, the movement of it. It might be, lightweight snatches, whatever you think you might have to improve on. Let's just say these are 2 things, one or both, or, something similar. So let's say you train 1 to 2 times a week for that. So you might train 6 days a week, but 1 to 2 sessions, or, 1 to 2 1 to 2 times that you're training for these specifically, that'll equal 21 to 42 sessions, okay? Over the next time until the Open, okay? So you have 21 to 42 sessions. That's 21 if you're doing it once, 42 if you're doing it twice, so let's just assume somewhere in between. Or if it's really that bad, we'll probably end up on the 42, and if it's, not as bad, probably on the 21. Let's assume 80% of those sessions are really good, which is a lot. That's pretty high. So, pretend you're doing some muscle up training and you're having a bad day, and if you're not that good at them, or if you're not good at a certain skill, it's not uncommon to have bad days where you feel like you're not making a lot of progress, and maybe not a lot of progress was made. But 80% is a high number. So if there is 80%, this number really turns into 17 to 34. Okay? So you think right now we have 6 months left, that's 147 days, I got plenty of time, but you really only have 17 to 34 sessions if you're really attacking a weakness to get better at by then. And this isn't, taking into account for, the months leading up where you're training specifically for the Open, you're training kind of shifts, you can't just work on accumulating really good skill work, so this number might even be inflated from there, but still, 17 sessions is not that many. 17 quality sessions, even 34, that's not many. If you thought, man, if I just had 34 more sessions to get better at X skill, you probably wouldn't be like, wow, I'd be an expert by then. But if you're assuming to be an expert or mastering a skill by the time the Open comes, you got to put this into the scope, okay? So that's not including a lot of other things that we need to work on. you need to be proficient in strength. We need to improve on our battery, our strength endurance, muscle endurance, and all of these are in various patterns: squatting, pressing, pulling from the floor, upper body pulling. We have aerobic work. You need to have a really good, strong aerobic base. You need to be able to recover, and you need to be able to repeat things. You need to be really good at gymnastics, and then you need to be really good at all of these things while under fatigue and doing them, over and over again, resting 1 to 2 days and doing the same workout again, okay? So you need to be good at all of these things, and likely there's more weaknesses in here. You need to be really good at them under fatigue. It might be a heavy lift, it might be 100 chest to bar, it might be 200 wall balls in a session with rowing, you don't know. And then you also need to get better at this, okay? So you're gonna have to try and balance now with the 147 days you have in the 6 months roughly to get to the Open, to get better at all of these, improve these while improving your weaknesses. Not getting better at muscle ups and then your strength, suffers because of that. Okay, so you have to be able to balance both. All right, so we have 147-ish days roughly. We have 17 to 34 days to work on weaknesses, or 17 to 34 sessions. And then we also need a really good training balance. So that means between the weaknesses, the other stuff that we need to be good on, or be good at in order to be really good in the Open. So the 2019 Open, there was 2 Opens in 2019. So most of you probably understand this, but this is the first Open. 4 out of 5 workouts had knee flexion, okay? 4 out of 5 workouts had upper pulling. And then 3 out of 5 workouts had upper pushing. This is a lot. This is kind of the theme for a lot of Open workouts, a lot of qualifiers. This is pretty similar from year to year, but 4 out of 5 had squatting or lunging in it, and that was the primary part of the workout. So 4 out of 5 had upper pulling, gymnastics, toes to bar, muscle ups, chest to bar. 4 out of 5 had that, and then 3 out of 5 had upper pushing. Okay, so these are a large percent of the movements are looking like this. So you need to be really good at this. So this is what's required. All right. So if this is what's required in the testing body, this is kind of what needs to be worked on during that time. All right, so the Open period itself, we have 35 to 40 days of 2 hard workouts per week. So you're likely, the workout comes on Wednesday night or Thursday, you're doing it on Friday, you're resting Saturday, and then you're likely doing it on Sunday or Monday, okay? So you have short turnaround to do the same workout twice, so that's double the movements of whatever the workout is, double the reps, and you're having to go really hard, you're having to go really deep, so this is a big tax on the body. And again, you're doing that for 35 to 40 days. That's pretty tough, okay? So near the 40-day mark, you still need to be able to go really hard on a workout and then likely repeat it just to get a few more reps in order to qualify. And this is true from the Open, and this is also true in, a qualifier for a sanctional. Likely those will be 2 to 3 weeks long, so it might not be 35 to 40 days, but you're still having to do, a really hard workout, repeat it, or repeat some other type of really hard workout. And then meanwhile, this isn't just 35 to 40 days of testing. You're having to train to maintain other things. You're having to hopefully try and get better at a few things and make sure you're not getting injured, make sure you're not getting sick, etc. So the average time of the workout in the Open is about 11 to 12 minutes. So this is assuming, you're in the top 200. So let's assume that's where you're wanting to get, top 200 worldwide. 11 to 12 minutes is going to be the average. So that's averaging the time of that 20-minute AMRAP, that 8-minute AMRAP, and then that for timepiece that took 12 minutes. It's taking all that into account, 11 to 12 minutes, okay? The one RM, everyone thinks they need to be really strong in the Open, which you do. You need a base level of strength, and you need to be able to be strong after doing some set of work, or even be strong before a set of work and then perform that set of work after. So there is statistically a low percent chance that there is going to be a really heavy lift in the Open, or a 1-rep max specifically. There might be heavier loads, but it's a little unlikely that there's going to be a 1-rep max lift. And even if there is, it's still lower priority to the other 90% of the Open that's occurring in those 5 weeks. Okay, so the score isn't as important as what else is happening. You can't just be strong and hopefully that makes up for, 4 out of 5 being, 100 squats to 200 squats to 200 lunges in a workout. Or you can't make that 1 RM clean, that got you 4th place overall in your region, or, 50th in the world. It's not going to make up for the 4 out of 5 upper pulling workouts that's going to be, that's going to heavily weigh down the other score, okay? So this is what's required. So we'll call this required. Required. Sorry, spelled that wrong. And then this is the reality. Okay. So if this is the reality of what's to come, we know this, and we know that this has been required in previous years. How is your training looking compared to this? Are you taking this into effect? Are you saying, okay, I know I need to be really good at these 3 things. I need to be pretty much strong. I need to, have that training balance. I know that I need to, be prepared for 35 to 40 days of going hard twice a week. And then I need to know that I'm just crushing workouts in the 11 to 12 minute mark with all types of different contractions. Like, it could be wall balls, and it could be deadlifts. It could be, rowing, and it could be burpees. It could be, 1,000 different combinations, which we've seen. And then, am I strong enough, but not too focused on strength that other things are getting worse? So you need to make sure that you know what's required, what the reality is, and then base your training off that. All right, so again, recap, 147 days, 17 to 34 sessions on some weakness training. We need that training balance. We know what is required based off previous opens. We know what the reality is based off the time and the statistics. So now, what does this mean to us? What does this tell us? That means we need extreme proficiency in muscle endurance. So for what is required, all those movements patterns we talked about, how often they're showing up at the open, you need to be extremely proficient in those movements and be able to do a lot of them and do a lot of them for a long time. We have the theme of the qualifiers, so we kind of know that too. So the theme of the qualifiers is going to repeat itself. Those movements, what is required is showing up, pretty commonly. So this can also carry over to training for other qualifiers, not just specifically the open. Then we have the reality. We need to prepare. So you need to know all of this stuff that we just went over. You need to have that mapped out, and you need to understand the intricacies of that and the individual. So someone who's training for this specifically has, vastly different requirements than someone else. Someone else might be really good at something, have a different training background, male, female. There's a lot of different things that can go into this. You have to be able to recover and repeat. So we know that. Remember, 2 hard workouts. You don't just need to be able to be good at one thing, or say, thrusters and wall balls or thrusters and burpees come out. You're really good at that. That's really cool. But can you do it really well? Can you recover in 2 days and then repeat it and do better, and then recover in 5 days and do another workout again? Because week 2 will be here pretty soon. Okay. So then what we have left is the reflection. Okay. So does all of this and everything we went over reflect your training right now? Is all of this coming into thought when you're like, man, I really need to start planning for training? Or is your coach or whoever you're working with or that blog, are they doing this for you? Likely not. They might be doing this in a general format for, a group of people, but that blog isn't going to get you there. It's not going to, help you work on those specific weaknesses while improving all those other areas. Okay? So this is where really good assessment and really good design come into play when one coach understands the athlete. Okay? So the coach needs to understand the athlete. The coach needs to assess really specific things and understand, wow, we know we have these specific performance indicators that make sure you're ready out of something that's going to come up in the open, whether it's muscle ups, whether it's power output, whether it's your aerobic system, how well you recover, things like that. This is why having a coach is extremely important in going to the open. And hopefully some of these numbers help open your eyes, and hopefully you're like, wow, I really don't have that much time. I can't just start preparing in January, or I can get my engine ready by January and then go into February and I'll be ready. Okay, so you can't just work on strength all year and then all of a sudden just start preparing for the open. Okay, so if you want to qualify, if you want to get to the next level, you have to be really good at these things. There's no way of getting around a qualifier. All right, so just to recap, does your training and your preparation reflect those things we went over? Okay, does it reflect the reality of what we know is going to happen, what's required, and what we know will come, or what's most likely to come? Your training balance, are you working on everything appropriately? Do you know how to improve those things at the same time? Do you know how to know if you're even really bad at those things, or if you're good at something? You need to have really good assessment skills, or have a coach that has really good assessment skills. And then to use that assessment or that group of assessments using who you are, what your work life is like, How many times do you have to train a week? What's your stress levels like? What's your previous training history like? What injuries have you had? There's 1,000 things that goes into understanding a person and then understanding their assessments to build a program design. And then also getting to know that person and get better information on what motivates them, why they want to do this. It's much deeper than just understanding what workout A is and then how to improve that, because there's a person in between there as well. So you have to make sure that everything reflects on what we talked about, who the individual is, and then getting better at the 2021 Open. If that's your goal, if you want to improve on that, then we recommend getting a coach. Okay, getting a coach and finding someone that can really help you and make those hard decisions for you and put you in a position where you can grow, in a position where you just worry about training and you just worry about getting better. Okay, so thank you for listening to Why We Design, a little bit about the 2021 Open and how we're preparing and how we're kind of getting our athletes ready to prepare for the 2021 Open.